prayer. That is the most stabilizing thing we can do in our entire life. Hello, I am Brother Francisco Whitaker, and this is All Good in the Brotherhood. For today's episode of Benedictine Spirituality 101, we're going to begin talking about the 3 Benedictine vows, which are stability, obedience, and conversatio. For today, we're just going to focus on the very first one, stability. And these vows come from the chapter of the rule where Benedict speaks about those who are entering the monastery for the first time, that after they've completed their novitiate, their first year, that they then profess these 3 vows to the community. So, stability, what is that? Stability is a really actually unique vow to Benedictine monasticism. You'll hear that most religious orders take vows of poverty, chastity, and obedience. So we have obedience covered ourselves, and the poverty, chastity part is actually contained in that 3rd vow of conversatio, which we'll talk about in another episode. But stability is very uniquely Benedictine. And that is a vow which says, when I profess my vows, and when I give my life to God through the Benedictine way of life, that it is not only to this ideal, but it is actually to how it is lived out in this specific place with this specific group of monks. So for me, my stability is to St. Vincent Archabbey in Latrobe, Pennsylvania, to this group of monks in this place. That is unique because other religious orders like Dominicans or Franciscans, while they make their vows to the order, and it is represented by a prior or a superior general, they don't make their vows explicitly to any community per se. They make it to the whole order so that they could be moved around from one small community, let's say in DC, to then up in New York City, to then back down somewhere in Florida, kind of all over the place where there is a need and where the community needs development. Well, for us, I'm not being shifted around to monastery in Alabama and then monastery out in California and then back here. I am a monk of St. Vincent. That's it. And that is what stability is. And there are so many things about stability that are really awesome and extremely beneficial and are necessary for the monk to be able to live out his calling. But there are 3 steps that I think are particularly applicable for everyone, and that can help us to see why stability is not just something that a monk can take as a vow, but ought to be something that we pursue ourselves in the spiritual life, in our relationship with God and with ourselves and with others. And that 3-step process is something that is actually, part of the Christian journey. But stability is an avenue by which we are able to take that journey most effectively. So in stability, I commit to a place, or in maybe your circumstance, you commit to a job, or you commit to a spouse, whatever it is. You have staked your claim in a commitment to something, and that is a stabilizing factor. Well, what does stability allow us to do? If we grow in stability, or we root ourselves down instead of, shopping one place here for a job, and then when we get a little tired of it, going somewhere else, or, this church community is nice for a little while, and then I shift community, putting down roots, really letting ourselves be firm in a place. And also, stability of habit is really important, right? Good, positive routines. Whatever it is that is stabilizing us, when we are in a stable place, environment, mental space, spiritual life, we begin to grow in self-knowledge. And that's the first step, self-knowledge. Because if you're bouncing around all these other places, or you're, instability of mind, you're anxious, you're afraid, or you never know where your next meal is coming from, or you're always worried that, the people that you're with potentially are going to leave you, you don't have an opportunity. You don't have a chance to really take some time for self-discovery, or to learn about why you experience certain emotions that you do in certain circumstances, why you're angry at sometimes, why some people make you happier than others, what traumas you dealt with in your life maybe not addressed, why forgiving this one person, though they really haven't hurt you that much, is somehow harder than it is someone else who has hurt you a lot. why certain circumstances or times are easy to pray and others are extraordinarily difficult. All of those questions can be answered if we have a stable place. And stability doesn't necessarily always mean everything around us is peachy keen and absolutely perfect. Not everything around the monastery where I live, is always top notch and everything is, totally even keeled. But it means that I have found in this way of life a place that I can trust myself to let my guard down. And that's what stability allows us to do, is let our guard down. First with ourselves, to admit maybe where we're not as up to shore with things as we like to admit. Also that, maybe I'm wounded or I'm hurt. I'm great at certain skills and being proud of that and not always, taking a fake humility stance on the things that people compliment us for. Stability allows us to experience self-knowledge so that we can then move into the second step, which is self-acceptance. When we truly begin to know ourselves or, someone else, it's in that knowledge that we begin to actually accept who they are and not expect that everything needs to change. Well, the same thing is true for ourselves. We're able to be stable in a place, in an environment that then moves us to a stable spiritual life and a stable disposition and emotional life. We now can also accept who that person is that we have discovered. And so many people in the world can't accept themselves because they haven't even begun to question who they are or explore the fullness of their identity. A lot of the problems in our culture are caused by the reduction of a person's identity to one aspect of who they are. So whether that's reducing them to their sexual orientation, their race, their preferred gender, whatever you want to call it, it's reduction of the whole person to one thing. And when that is all that a person throws their identity in, that's all they know about themselves, and it can be really hard to accept that one thing. Or they then demand that you accept that as all of who they are. Well, that's just a loss of that self-knowledge. But when we're in a stable place and we're able to know ourselves, we're able to accept who we are and grow in the fullness of our identity because we're a body, mind, and soul. Self-acceptance is to see the continuity or maybe even the disunity of some of those things, but then accept them knowing that it is in Christ and fidelity to his call in our life that will bring all of those together. And when we do that, we can move into that third place, which stability allows, which is self-gift. If you know who you are, you accept who you are, then you can actually give who you are fully, not with any constraints, not with any limitations, but truly who you are. Knowing that, I can't do everything, but I'm not going to pretend to do everything. It's letting go of perfectionism and egoism. It's letting go of a false humility that, I can't do anything. Like, no, there are some things I can do well, some things I can't. So how can you be stable today? That's a question. How can you be stable? Well, there are two huge places for us to grow in stability. One is involvement in community. Other people can help us to grow in stability. If you're striving to be focused and calm and everything is only on your effort and not relying on other people, trust me, it's not going to work. I vow stability to a community, not to Brother Francisco's expression of Benedictine monasticism. So you need to make sure you have a solid community, whether that's a family, your own immediate family or extended family, a church community, a small group of men and women that you meet with regularly, Bible studies, something. Sports teams can be a good community if they pursue, their sports in a virtuous way and the stuff outside of sports are not debaucherous. All of those can be places of community and then therefore places of stability. And the second is prayer. That is the most stabilizing thing we can do in our entire life, is a consistent prayer routine. Knowing that when I pray, God is always with me. In fact, he's always with you, even if you're not praying. But prayer is that time to recollect that fact. And doing it consistently at a specific time, in a specific place, there's some stability, time and place, will then grow us and in prayer nurture us to know ourselves, accept ourselves, and ultimately to give ourselves. And if what we're giving to others is who we are, it's beautiful, and people see that and know it's authentic. And if we're praying and in community, we're getting that good positive feedback of, yes, you are loved, you are seen, so that people can know us, people accept us, and that allows us to give more of ourselves and invites others to give their selves to us and to others as well. So thank you for joining me for another episode of Benedictine Spirituality. I'm Brother Francisco. Have a wonderful day. God bless.